quick, we've talked about this in meetings past, but we are recording tonight. Once Iggy's set up, he's going to record the meeting. We're probably going to start putting this on our website, so I just want everybody to be aware we are going to record this tonight, okay? All right, thanks. If everybody would please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, thanks everyone for coming this evening. Welcome to all of our guests or first-time folks that are here. Big welcome to you and thank you for joining us. We will first have Joan read the minutes. I did send out the link, so hopefully some folks got a chance to look at those ahead of time, but we will have her read the minutes and we'll approve those.
Minutes for June 15th, 2022. 21 members and 2 guests were present. President Susie Johnson called the meeting to order at 6:36 p.m. All stood for the Pledge of Allegiance. Secretary Joan Wilson read the minutes from the previous meeting of May 18th, 2022. Judy Thomas moved to accept the minutes as read, and Tina Hill seconded. Jonna Beckett gave the treasurer's report. The beginning balance was $3,202.88. 2 debits, a check for a $500 scholarship, another check for $59.98 to Stephen Iggy Zielinski for website hosting fee. The bank balance was $2,642.90. Cash on hand was $52 with undeposited funds of $40. Julie Bova gave a brief account of the circuit clerk's office where she said that they're busy with whatever the boys in blue throw at them. Karen Stubbe gave a report of the county commission's recent and planned activities. They've made street repairs in St. Mary. She said they had ordered more box culverts for further bridge repairs. She also reviewed the courthouse rehab projects with new windows upstairs as well as electrical work. Maintenance continues on county roads. Linda Wagner reported that the assessor's office sent about 700 letters to taxpayers notifying them that there will be changes in their assessed valuations. She also stated that there's a lot of new construction of homes in the county, but many people don't get work permits for new buildings. She said that enforcement is needed. Robert Lord asked Karen if the county fair would have a horse show arena once again. He said all the surrounding counties have these arenas. She said that the former arena has been used for parking, so there's no space for this. Susie read thank you notes from Peyton Beckett and Justin Bosler, our scholarship recipients. She also read a thank you note from Valley High School for a scholarship. Susie reminded us about her email informing us about U.S. Senate candidate Lucas Kuntz appearing at a town hall in Perryville on Saturday, June 25th at 11 a.m. at the warehouse, a concert venue there. Susie inquired about candidates using our table at the fair. Annette Ross said that Peggy Yamitz will take a shift for her. She said that Susan Miller plans to use the table as well. David Bova gave a short report where he said the governor has 45 days to sign bills, but with the legislature being out of session, there's nothing more at this time. Iggy's social media committee member mentioned the arrest of white supremacists in Idaho this past week, where 2 of them are from areas close by, one of whom is from Florissant and had been hired by Iggy's uncle. He brought up the 1 degree of separation in relation to this. He made a plea for more content for social media. We need examples of Dems doing good in the community. He said there were 300 hits on our website, which is encouraging. Susie said that there would be a social media committee meeting after the club's meeting. There was discussion about the Facebook group. Members need to go to the Democratic page to get into the group. There was a question about whether we should continue to spend a $30 monthly fee for social media. Joan moved to continue this, and Jim Wagner seconded it. We had 2 presentations. Linda Wagner spoke about Senate Bill 40, which was passed in April 1976 in a special election whereby developmentally disabled individuals are afforded services in education and jobs, improving their quality of life. Jillian Ditch Anslow representing Operation Sand, spoke against the proposed silica mine being planned to be established in a pristine area close to Holland State Park. Shane Kurtz, who lives in this area, also spoke and answered questions about this project. Linda made a motion to adjourn the meeting and Tina seconded it. Meeting adjourned at 8:10 p.m. Next meeting is July 20th.
All right, thanks, Joe. Any questions or comments about the minutes? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve. Bob, and a second from Linda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then John has got a treasurer's report for us.
Last month's balance was $2,642.90. We had one deposit for $137 with 2 membership fees, and then the raffle from May and June, all totaling $137. Our ending balance is $2,779.90.
Any questions about the treasurer's report? Okay, if not, I'd entertain a motion to approve. Judy, and a second from Ben in the back. All in favor? Thank you. All right, that takes us to county office holders report. Any office holders like to comment? Wayne, you got nothing?
Nothing today.
You got an open way?
All right.
Tales of woe.
Could the office holders who are present stand up and introduce themselves for the people that are new?
That'd be great. We'll start with you, Wayne.
I'm Wayne Reynolds. I'm your county prosecuting attorney for St. Genevieve County, and it's nice to see everybody here.
I agree, and I am Sarah Hogue, and I am your county treasurer. I am Linda Wagner, I'm your county assessor, your favorite
I'm Karen Stubbe, the First District Commissioner for St. John County.
My name is Bob Bach. I am the chairman of the Board of Trustees of the St. Genevieve County Health Department.
Carl's on the health board too, although he told me I couldn't let him talk tonight, so there he is. Linda or Sarah or Karen, anybody have anything? Karen, did you have anything to report?
Yeah, I wrote some things down,
Great,
what
thank
we're
you.
working on. Do you want me to stand up?
Yeah, go,
Okay.
however you're comfortable.
We went out today, and actually inspected, we have partial paving going on Kaufman Road and Avon Road. So we were out this morning, watching Joker's Paving, or Joker's Incorporated, work on that project this morning. We also had a generator installed at the courthouse, and we got that through a grant. So, that's been installed, and now we have to put a fence around the generator. So we're working on, the fence is getting ordered, so we'll have to install that as soon as we get the fencing in. All the work on the outside work at the fairgrounds has been completed, and we promised that we would have that done prior to the fair, and it was finished prior to the fair, and I think we had a really fantastic fair last weekend. So very happy with how that turned out. And then they're gonna start doing some repairs to the youth building, probably replacing the roof and doing some inside remodeling and some other infrastructure work. We also signed a contract with Access One, which is basically a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week protection for cybersecurity. So since we had our breach in cybersecurity back in 2020, we kind of made this one of our top priorities. So the county will be covered for emails, and just, we have someone monitoring our servers and our systems. So I feel like that's one thing that we really wanted to get accomplished. We also have been out inspecting roads, like I said this morning. We're doing other day-to-day operations, and we're still working on trying to get, some windows replaced in our courthouse on the second floor. So that's pretty much it for now. So, but if you have any questions, let me know, but we're busy.
All right, thanks, Karen. Yeah.
We're getting ready to go into the county board of equalization
closed our books for the 2022 tax year, and then our office will begin working on 2023 stuff.
Great. Yeah.
Bob, I had a question. We're hearing a lot about monkeypox on the news. I'd never heard of it before. Is it anything to be concerned about in our area?
Monkeypox, at least as discussed under the direction of one of our other board members, Dr. Matthew Bosner, is something that currently is found in the gay community, particularly with men. So does that mean it cannot be found elsewhere? It can. But right now, it's, even though you see something on Facebook, and I've seen things that have come across my Facebook page, but that has been it's discussed just briefly in one of our board meetings. Right now, that's currently within that particular community. So if it ventures outside, it'll be through some other communications amongst people in their everyday life. So right now, monkeypox, I think, may not be something that we need necessarily be concerned about, other than just be aware of that it's out there and it's within a particular community. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Thanks, Bob. David, do you have anything to share? David Bova is the president of the Board of Education. Sometimes apprises us of goings on in that arena.
Last night, we hired a construction manager at risk. A brief description, instead of a general contractor, this would be a general contractor, but we employ. So sits on our side of the table to negotiate, to sit with the architect. So I think it was the right way to go. We hired Brock Miller. So Brock Miller is local. They're out of Farmington, St. Francis County. Currently doing the work at the jail. I've done other work for the school district, other work for the county, including the water park. So some very great references. Besides that, continuing to work. We recently raised the salary schedule at for the certified staff and for the classified staff. So the teacher base salary went up $1,000, so that trickles through the salary schedule. And the hourly folks got a 75-cent raise, so it takes the base. Not everybody starts at the base, depends on your experience, but it starts at $14.06. My personal goal would be to get that to $15 in the next few years. So that's what I got.
Thanks, David.
Yep.
All right, so for some other news, I know Joe mentioned in the minutes, we were talking about the Lucas Kuntz Town Hall in Perryville, since he wasn't able to make stop in St. Jenna and Perryville. Lisa made it, Judy and Pear made it. What did you guys think? How was that event?
It was
Real
good.
nice.
Really-
Yeah.
Really good, yeah. Well attended, I thought.
He's
Great.
the real deal.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I like Mrs.
Bush.
Bush too, but
Valentine, yeah.
Lucas is 13-year veteran, grew up in a poor family in Jeff City. I mean, what more you want?
Yeah.
He started from nothing and he's still working his way up.
He's a fighter,
Yeah, all right.
And he'll take on Greitens and Eric
Schmidt.
Schmidt.
Whichever Eric. All right.
He'll take them on head to head, and that's what I like.
Well, thanks to you guys for representing St. Jen down there. Of course, it's disappointing he couldn't make a stop here as well, but I'm glad we had some
Yeah, we
representation
talked to him
down there.
afterwards. And
Great. Great, thank you. I didn't get this on the agenda because it just came in the mail, but in years past, we have been a football booster for St. John High School. We got that letter today, well, I picked up the mail today, so we got that invitation in the mail again as well. So this would put an advertisement in their program and some free passes for the club. So the deadline is August 19th, so I thought we better talk about this tonight. There are, it ranges from 1/8 of an inch lettering on an interior page with 1 free football pass for $20, up to $100 for half-inch size lettering on an interior page ad, and 10 free passes. We can donate more, we can donate less, but those are some of the recommendations. So does anybody?
Is that the biggest, the $100 for the half-inch lettering?
That's what the biggest that's listed on this form, yeah.
Susie, is that what we did last year?
I believe it is.
I think it is too.
I did not think to go back and look at that, but I kind of remember us getting like 10 passes
Yeah,
and
that's the part I
maybe doing
remember.
$100.
I mean, if no one has any objections, I'll make a motion to go with the $100 package.
Okay, a first from Bill to spend $100 to be a St. John High School Dragon football booster, and a second from Kim. All in any discussion? Lisa?
I think for the people that don't know what that is, it's the program that goes out every week when there's a football game, so people look at it. It's probably more eyeballs seeing that than maybe the local paper or other print venues.
I agree.
I suspect there's not enough, I'm sure we can't do this, but we can't list things like vote for.
They just let you list your name or your business.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah.
It's cheap advertising, it's great.
Yeah. And then we usually give the passes out at the meeting following when we receive them, so. All right, so we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. We'll get a $100 check before we leave tonight. All right, thanks, Donna. All right. So that was the only correspondence we received. I do have some sad news to share. One of our longtime members, Gary Foff, passed away yesterday. I know the Foffs hadn't been to the meetings in a while due to COVID, and Gary had a lot of health issues, but they were very active in the club. Gary's brother Dale is here, so we offer you and the whole family our condolences. I haven't seen any information on arrangements, but we'll share that when that's announced. That would take us down to, sorry, does anybody else have any news or updates to share? All right, we do also have, Susan brought some t-shirts. We've got our Ukrainian flags. Operation Sand brought some information as well. So if anybody's interested, Susan, did you have signs at a later date as well?
Yeah, somebody wants some.
Okay. All right, we'll probably next meeting get a little more into some campaign stuff since that's November, but again, Susan is here if anybody has any questions. So hopefully she can hang out afterwards. If we've got other questions for Operation Sand, you guys will be around after the meeting. If you want to take some information with you, feel free. That takes us to the social media update, so I'm going to hand it over to Iggy.
Okay, so we, I mean, based on the turnout tonight, I think our social media generally is working pretty well. The Facebook group is now up to about 42 people, which is great. That's double what normally come to the meeting. So I think that shows that there is some push behind the party. The website once again got another 100 hits. It seems that we're getting about 100 hits a month, just pretty regularly, and that's just with the interest and just generally being a club and being out there. So as soon as we get some more content up, if anyone wants to schedule an interview or just wants to generally write something up to submit for us to post, just let me know. I am working on some templates that are just via Google Forms that just ask basic questions. If anyone wants to fill those out, those will be available through our Facebook group and our page, as well as on the website in perpetuity. So we'll have those forever. Any candidates or anyone running for anything in the club, please reach out to Susie. She has a link to the candidate profiles template, which is just a template. You can use it, or you can use it as an outline to then send me your own stuff. I do have to request any writings, any articles, anything like that be over 500 words. If it's under that, Google doesn't really see it. So needs to be over 500 words, and just a reminder, anything that's submitted will be edited a little bit, mostly for search engine optimization purposes, and that's really it, not for content, but just to make sure that Google's reading the words properly. Other than that, I think the social media is doing good, and we'll have a bigger report next week or next month, sorry. when we have some more plans and some more things to announce. So thanks to everyone, because it's everyone who's doing that. So
Thanks, Ziggy.
Yep.
I did send that link out for that form to all the candidates, so we look forward to getting that response from you, as well as always you can send photos. We did put the QR code on a bunch of the tables for the Facebook group, so you can scan that if you haven't joined. Please join us on that discussion group. That is a closed group, so if you're not familiar, you'll have to answer a couple questions. We'll preview, and we'll go from there. It's not difficult questions. We're just trying to not
keep the bots out. We don't want
bots.
spam accounts. We don't want bots. We don't want things.
So we also recently formed an offsite event committee. They met last week, and I think Lisa's going to give that report.
Yes, we've met a couple of times now, and on the committee are Eileen Belovich, Joan Wilson, Mary Gunder, and myself. This is towards getting an event started and planned prior to the election in the fall. The date we've chosen is September 21st, and that will be in lieu of our regular meeting. So we want any candidates that we can get to attend. They'll have a chance to meet and greet whoever shows up. We'll have a few refreshments. There will be an opportunity for candidates to speak to the group that's in attendance there. We're planning to have it at Cafe Genevieve. There'll be light refreshments, and we encourage you to both plan a meal there when you can, if not that night prior to the 5:30 start. Some other time, we will have a cash bar also. And I'm happy to announce that Randy McCallion, our candidate for 8th Congressional District, has confirmed today that she'll be in attendance that night. And all other local candidates, if you want to let me know for sure that you're coming, that would be great. We want to hear from you, and everybody come and bring your cousins and uncles. Okay? Thank you.
All right, thanks, Lisa. Next month, we'll probably have a vote on some expenses related to that for the use of the room and appetizers and things like that. So we'll get that on the agenda for next month. We'll take a vote. We got plenty of time since that we'll have one meeting before that. All right, it's 7, and that brings us to our guest speaker. So I'm going to let Robert introduce our speaker for the evening.
Thank you, Madam President. I have known Roger Faulkner. I was thinking about this for over 30 years, almost 35 years. And if I get anything wrong, correct me later, Roger. But Roger grew up, his father had an excavating business. Roger probably was learning to operate a backhoe about the same time he was learning to ride a bicycle. So that he went on to start his own company, him and his lovely wife, Marilyn, there with him. And Roger and I have been personal friends for over 30 years. He's a successful businessman here in the county. And he's also pastor of First Baptist Church, probably the largest Protestant church in St. Genevieve County, to the best of my knowledge. And I have never, in my 30 plus years of knowing Roger, had any reason to doubt his integrity or his honesty. So I just ask that you be attentive and respectful and hear what he has to say. My friend, Roger Faulkner. Roger, you want to stand up behind the podium?
Thanks, Robert. That was nice. 35 years.
Yes.
We've gotten old together.
We did.
So anyway, I look a lot older than you do. So anyway, I want to thank you for having me tonight. I don't, when Robert called and asked about this, NexGen has a general manager. His name is Clark Bollinger. He was the one that was supposed to come and speak. And then he has a daughter that just got out of high school, and his wife planned a surprise trip for his daughter to go to the Dominican Republic, and he also surprised Clark. And Clark called me and said, hey, I can't go, can you go? And so that's why I'm here tonight. And so anyway, I just want to take just a minute to introduce myself. I can live in a community, I'm sitting next to Rod tonight. I've known Rod for 30 years, but I just met him about 6 months ago. And And you guys have people like that the same way. We think we know them, but it's not until we get an opportunity to, and maybe circumstance brings us together. That's when Robert and I met at just north of town here. We went to a church together. It was Second Baptist Church at the time. That's when my wife and I first moved into the community about 35 years ago. And that's where we have made some long-term relationships, and those relationships have stayed with us. And then it was about 25 years ago, I became the pastor at the First Baptist Church in St. Genevieve. And it has been my honor and my greatest joy is to share the gospel of Jesus Christ to this community. And that's my joy. That's my joy. You know, excavating is what I do, and we are dirt diggers, and we put in pipe and we clear trees, but what I love to do is share the gospel. And so anyway, I pastored, and then my big title in town has always been, like some of you sitting here, 35 years ago I became Kyle's dad, and then I became Corey's dad, and then I became Kristen's dad. For some 30 years, that was my title. My kids all started out at Bloomsdale Elementary, and Mr. McDaniel was their principal, and what a great man that he was. We had intention at that time to, all of our kids were going to attend the Twin City Christian Academy in Festus. That was something that meant a lot to my wife and I, to get a Christian education. And then we went to Bloomsdale. Kyle went to Bloomsdale. We met Mr. Eicher, and the rest is history. All my kids graduated from St. Gen High School. That's how impressed I am with the high school, and we try to be great supporters of the high school every time we get an opportunity. And so anyway, that is something that we've done. We used to run our business called R&K Excavation out of Festus, and in 07, 08, the recession came, and R&K had to do a lot of scaling back to be able to survive a few things, and so we brought our business to quote unquote the house, and now we run our business off of Old Highway, and many of you know where it is, and some of you don't know, and some of you don't care. So anyway, but that's where we run our business out of, and we've been there probably for the last 7, 8, 9 years, I guess is what it's been. We moved there, I think, in 08. So anyway, so that's 15 years. Let's go, time is flying. We lived 15 years at Tri-Acre Lane, and then we moved to where we're at now on the piece of property we have now. We've lived there for the last 17 years, and so time is flying by. I tell you all those things to let you know that St. Genevieve County means a lot to me. St. Genevieve County is not only a place that I live, but it's the place that I call home. It's the place that I have raised my family. It's the people that I call friend. And it's the place, no matter where I go and wherever God takes me in this country, it's the place that I brag about and tell people who they are. In this last 6 months, I took on another title, and it was part of a mining project called NexGen. And around November, I think it was, I got a call on the way home and said, would you be a part of something? And I said, let me sit down and talk with you. I sat down and talked with 6 property owners, and they told me what their plan was. They told me some other people that were involved, and so anyway, myself and my 2 sons, Kyle and Corey, and 2 men out of Columbia, Missouri, named Bob Gerke and Aaron Vollrath. We formed a partnership, and it's called NexGen. And so what we begin to do is we begin to go through the process of what it takes to and all we can educate ourselves with sand. And so at that point, and I'm going fast because I don't want to bore you, but anyway, at that point, we begin to take trips to Jefferson City. The first trip we took to Jefferson City, we met with the gentleman's name was Drew Button. Drew Button is the director for the DNR in the state of Missouri. And there I got to meet Larry Lehman, Bill Zeman, Colin. I met people there that day. And so anyway, sitting there, they began to tell me the requirements that were set aside to open a quarry or a mine in the state of Missouri. And he was talking, and he said, you know, here's here's this has to be done and this has to be done. And I stopped him and I said, Mr. Button, I want you to know something. You know what? To everyone else here, this is a project. To this is home to us. And what we're getting ready to do is we're getting ready to open something where we are not just a business, but we are part of that community. And so that's the way we want to approach it. We don't want this to be a mine that gets by. We want this to be a mine that sets the standard for every mine in the state of Missouri. And my son was sitting there by me, and my son lives at the golf course. My son is a member at the golf course, but also a citizen and a taxpayer in St. John County. Is that right, Linda? He does, right? Okay. So anyway, we came back and we started the approach and met some interesting people through the process. One of the people that one of our is it all right? All right. So anyway, and one of the people that I called was Linda, and I called to talk to her. I have a great respect for her. I don't like to get mail from her, and but I have a great respect for her. And I asked her some questions about how certain things would work if we did this in our county. And she brought herself and brought another gentleman that she allowed me to speak to, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head. And he was from Arizona. Is that correct? That's correct. And he began to share some things with me that was very intriguing. And he had a geology background. And in his geology background, he said something to me that just really stuck with me. He said, you know what? He said, I go all over this United States doing what I do. But I want to tell you something, St. Genevieve County is unique. St. Genevieve County is unique in the fact that it has 3 mines that we consider to be world-class mines within a 20-mile radius. He said it happens nowhere else in our country. And I thought to myself, well, that's kind of a cool thing. And so anyway, we kind of took that, and because I, like you, I drive by the Limekiln, I drive by Lawast. I mean, Folsom is 2 miles up the road from me. And I thought to myself, I guess I never really put that much thought to it. And so we kind of took that and we began to kind of build on that. It was not long after that I met a lady here in our community that works for the Department of Economic Development. Her name is Sandra Cabot. And I sat down and I talked to Sandra about this, and I wanted to know what our administration, what their thought is toward mining in Missouri. And she told me that the thing is that there was support out there. And there was support out there, and that they would like to speak to us about that. And so Sandra has been great. Sandra has been a great in a lot of different ways. One thing that Sandra asked me very early on, she said something to me, and I took it. She said, always realize this. The state level is a neat thing. The state level is a powerful thing. But I want you to know something. County government matters. Please do not step past our county government. And so at that point when she asked me that, and she said, I ask that every step that you make and everything that you do, you make our commissioners aware. And Ms. Stupi knows this, and I have a great respect for our county people, and there's nobody can say through all of this, and Mr. Rizika and Mr. Nelson, I've always tried to show them respect, and they've done the same to us. So this is not about that. And so we went and we began to share these things. After the first meeting, when I got up and I asked them, I said, is this something you support? And they said yes. And so anyway, I left there and I went, and the next meeting that I had would be with our IDC, and I met with them, told them this, and at that meeting I didn't sit at the table because I wasn't part of it, I guess, quote unquote, yet. And so anyway, and they talked about their support and the ability to bring revenue and tax into our community. And then it wasn't long after that, and Miss Jillian's here tonight, and and I don't say this, and she's always showed Roger Faulkner respect, and I think she is, and I hate the fact that we are tonight on opposite sides, and that is hard, and you know what, because of the person that she is. And so we began to go down that road, and there was opposition, and when there became opposition, I have a young lady that works for me. She's worked for me for 20 years. And she said something to me, and when she said it, I tried to let that kind of be the forefront of everything that we've done from this point. She said, when did it start that when you had a disagreement with somebody, they had to become your enemy? And I told her, I said, that's true. And you know, the thing is, and I have a belief, I have a thought, I have a conviction, and you know what? And we sit here tonight, and you sit here representing the Democratic Party, and there's also a Republican Party, and we have differences. But by golly, we stood and we put our hand there and we saluted that flag, and that flag represents not only the Democrat, but the Republican. And when our commissioners, I know that they have a responsibility, and their responsibility is not to say, you know what, well, Roger, you know, you just tell us what we do and we move that way. They have a responsibility to the whole community of St. Genevieve County, and I totally respect that. And so what we've done is a group, and I'm talking fast, all right? We're going all right? So anyway, so what we've done as a group is we begin to try to educate ourselves. And we have believed that we've educated ourselves, and I have been, in the last 6 months, I've been to Pacific. R&K is an excavating company. R&K's worked in the silica mine in Pacific. I've been to the mine that sits on the hill behind Festus Hospital. I've been there. Our company worked there in the last few weeks. I've been to the one in Millersville. I've been to these places, and I've asked and I've talked to so many people. And because when we went to the meeting that Operation Sand had, and they presented their concerns, and I went up to them and I told her that night, and I said, you know, if I can't ever answer every one of these questions, then I'm not the citizen of St. Jim that I ought to be if I don't show you that proper respect. And so that is the approach that we've tried to take. We tried to take that to a point that we begin to hire people that are professionals. If you want to talk to me about certain chemicals, I'm not that guy, but I know that guy. When we talk about, you know, water and resources, you know what, I've talked to the gentleman from Minnesota, I've talked to the gentleman from Texas, I've talked to the man in Indiana, and I've talked to the guy in Denver, and they talk about, like, everything that we do. You know, modernization is an amazing thing. North America's largest cement producer, 2 miles from my house, employs 200 people, and that's the production that they can make. Why is that? Because of technology. Technology has took the mining industry. My wife, her dad was from Potosi. They call them quote unquote tip diggers. And you know what? And I remember going out there years ago and seeing the old mills that they would just, and the way that they would wash and water running down the ditches. I remember all that. And now I've been to these plants and seen that, you know what I mean, the reuse of water, just like when you go to a car wash, and how that water has been able to be recycled and filtered and purified, and they can use it. We've looked at that. We've tried to do all the research that we can. You know, and that's why that tonight went to Festus, get my cheeseburger, because I was kind of feeling a little bit weak. And on the way home, I asked my wife a question. And the question I asked my wife is, Merrill, if we could settle up and stop and say we never done it and forget it, what would your thought be? And she said, you tell me. And I said, you know what? I still yet today, not because I like to have people against who I am as a person or who I am as an individual or the stance I take on certain things. Nobody likes that. If somebody tells you that they like opposition and they like people to you know, they got to be, that's not me. But what we do, and I told her, I said, you know what? I believe it's something great, not just good, but great for St. Genevieve County. I believe the economic impact is going to be amazing. But I believe that also that we have to do it responsible. And if we're not responsible, then you know what? Then we need to be held accountable. And part of that responsibility is the way that we do it, the way we conduct ourselves, and the way that we respect our neighbors. And that's the kind of the gist of where we're at tonight. So anyway, do I ask if anybody has a question or? Yes, we do Q&A. All right. So you might have a question. I apologize if I went too long. Go ahead, sir.
Don't know if you've gotten this far, but how many jobs do you expect this to create, and what would be the average wage of those jobs?
The amount of jobs that we talk about just at the plant, and again, we talked about technology, will be somewhere between 35 and 40 jobs. And let's say 25 and 40. I hate to, I don't want to go high and think you're just exaggerating, because the thing is with the plant, because of the new conveyor systems that are out there, we had the opportunity years ago into Mississippi Lime and helped build their conveyor system in the mines. And once this technology that we have is it all be conveyored. So just think about it. No longer there's 3 truck drivers, there's 1 loader. He loads it, and once he loads it, it's never touched again. It goes to the wet plant, which goes to the dry plant. And then the other thing that we're blessed with out there is the railroad is right there. And because the railroad's right there, we have silos, and the silos, the trucks, the trains will be able to come right underneath it. So that's the answer to that. And you say the salary is the starting salary?
Yes, sir, 25 to 40 jobs, and you said the average salary range?
I think the average starting salary will be between $28 and $32 an hour with a top of 42. And what we understand is R&K is a union company. And one thing that we take great pride in is not the home that we live in, but also the homes that our men and the people that work for us. And because of that, we want to pay a competitive wage, and more than just competitive, but a higher wage that it will be that way. So if a man works 2,000 hours a year and he starts at $32 an hour, that's $65,000 starting.
Or a woman.
Or a woman, I'm sorry, sir. No disrespect.
No.
For those of us concerned about the purity of groundwater, habitat destruction, production of forever chemicals, carcinogenic compounds.
Yes, sir.
Why does this mine have to be in St. Genevieve County? Because I'm concerned about all of those things.
Yes. And I appreciate that question. When this all started, one of the first people I talked to, his name was Ira Sutterfield. Ira Sutterfield was the geologist for the state of Missouri for umpteen years. And Ira Sutterfield, when I talked with him, he let us know that the reserve that was there, and the one thing about natural resources, if they ain't there, you can't find them. You know, I run an excavating company, and when you think about limestone, your thought is limestone's everywhere. We go to Tower Rock, we go to Base Rock, we go out to West County, we go all those places. Did you know that when you get south of Cape Girardeau, there's no such thing as limestone till you get to Memphis? And so the thing is, it's a natural resource. And so that is one thing. But the other thing, sir, is with the chemicals and things like that, they have come so far with that. And I wish I was I can tell you what I know, but you know what? You would ask me and you say, well, how does flocculants work? I know that once it's added into the product, I know that the drying operation that we have will not allow it to leave the pad which we produce on. But again, that's what we've shown. So anyway, but I guess your answer is why in St. Genevieve County? The same reason that we have the largest cement plant in North America, same reason that we have Mississippi Lime, the reason we have LaWas is because this is where the natural resources are. Go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, sir, you're a businessman. I know you're a pastor, but you're also predominantly a businessman.
and you're gonna pay these people a great salary, so how much is your company gonna make off of this by taking this over? This has gotta be a huge, big in your pocket endeavor, or you wouldn't be going after it this strongly.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the thing that makes, man, I don't wanna sound pompous here. There's none of us that invest does not hope for a return. And the investment is great. And with that, I hope the return is the same. But in that, ma'am, I hope that the fact that the same way with the way that we run R&K and the same way that Aaron and Bob run Capital, you know, man, they're givers, and that's what I love about them. They do not take it and say, I'm gonna go build a big house and dig a big hole. Man, they are community-minded people, and I hope we're the same way. And I hope with what we do is, if it's profitable, hopefully we do make a profit, but hopefully through that, we're able to give back to the community that we're a part of. And how much profit we're gonna make, that depends on markets. That depends on markets.
Does your company currently donate to the community, and in what ways do you currently do that?
That's all right, can you ask that question
In what
again?
ways does your company currently give back to the community as a business?
Thanks.
And when I say these things, that's a hard question, because then what you're asking me to do is brag on who we are. But Mr. Bova sits back there, and Mr. Bova could answer that question. Clark's sitting there, Rod is sitting there, he could answer that question. When my sons was part of the school district, we're all that way. You know what I mean? And we tried to give to the school. That's what we tried to do. We have some exciting things getting ready to happen in St. Genevieve City right now, and I'm excited for that. And man, this generation, this 30-something generation, man, they're amazing. And this 30-something generation says, hey, we want St. Genevieve not to be the same that it's. And again, there's no disrespect in the numbers that we have in our county. But you know what? I have a son and a daughter that went to school here, grew up here, and live in Farmington, because they saw something there that they didn't see here. But there's things happening in St. Genevieve, and when that happened, we were asked to be a part of something, and we, at R&K, we did become a part of something, and I think it's going to be something very positive for our community. And we do, we do golf, and again, but I hate to, we try to be very community-minded. Yes, sir.
Can you explain the extraction process?
Yes.
How do you get this out of the ground?
Yes. The extraction process happens by, first we have to strip the soil off the top of off the sand, because it has to be in a pure state. The one thing about the properties out there that the sand is very shallow, and so anyway we remove that, and then we have to drill it and we have to blast it. And when we drill it and we blast it, then from that point it goes to something what they call a wet plant. And that wet plant, what it is where there's I guess for lack of a better term, a large tub, and the sand goes in there and it's washed, and then it's purified and all the impurities are washed out of it, and then after those impurities get washed out of it, then it goes to the dry plant, and so it has to be dried. Sand is now I'm going to tell you layman's terms, okay? Sand comes in certain meshes, they call it. They call it a 40 mesh, a 50 mesh, a 60 mesh, 70, 100. And this sand is of that quality where this sand can be used for fracking, but it also can be used in glass and other things the same way. But it is first shot, and then after that, then it's loaded on a conveyor. Conveyor takes it to the wet plant. It's washed. After it's washed, then it goes to a dry plant, and the dry plant looks almost just like the one, if you guys go out by Fisher's Quarry and when they're asphalting out there and there's that the tube itself is I think 11 foot tall, and I think it is a 40-something foot long, has a turbine in it, and what the sand does, it goes in there and it starts the drying process, and it is heated and with propane gas. Same thing that we barbecue with. That's the product that we use.
So what happens to this residue from the washing process?
When it washes, it has a, if this gets boring, when it washes, what it has is, it has on it, it's called a filter press. And what that filter press is looks almost like what you have on in your furnaces. And so when those impurities come out the other side, all the time the water is leaving the tub, it goes through this filter press, and it is cycled through. And then what it does is it presses the water out of it, and then those products hit the ground, and those products are also sellable. And we have certain plants in this area that will buy that product. So we feel that there's gonna be no waste product, is what we feel.
And the liquid is recycled then? Is that the story?
The liquid is recycled when the water comes off of the, and again, you have to remember, it's already went through filters and it's been pressed and it's been removed. Then it goes back down to what we call our reservoirs, and then it's pumped back up and it's recycled. And we feel like, and the suppliers and the plants that we've went and we've witnessed, they say it's 95% reusable. 3%, the other 5% will be through evaporation and will be through what's left in the soil that will not be pressed out.
So these storage facilities, is this just a hole in the ground, or is this a contained tank?
Are you talking about our water reservoirs?
Yeah.
I would say that they look like lakes, ponds, whatever you want to call them.
And so this water can be seeping down into the groundwater?
Okay. I would, I mean.
Yes or no?
Yes or no, will it sink down into the groundwater? I don't think so.
Why?
Why will it not sink down in the ground? I have a pond right outside my house, and when I, 12 years ago, decided to clean it out, I cleaned it out and I got a foot down below what we call the sludge, and it was dry as a bone. You know, that's what I think, but again, there's different thoughts. It's sand, and if it's sand, it's porous, and in time it will travel. I can't argue that. I think that's a given, correct? I mean, we use sand filters and things like that, but when it's that porous, how long does it take to travel through? I think that would be the question. But am I the hydrologist that can stand here and tell you it's going to travel so many feet in so many minutes? Or I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. Go ahead.
What, I don't know any of I'm not up in science, and I believe you are very earnest and a moral man. But to me, it's real simple. How do you reconcile your desire to bring towns in, jobs in, which is a great thing, but with the people who are now living there, who are objecting to this? I just went out to Farmington yesterday, and the signs along, and I saw the land because my friend and I looked it up on the computer, and I know that area a little bit. I've had relatives who have had property outside of Weingarten since the 40s, 30s. And how do you reconcile that with the disturbance, many of the people who are objecting, with what's going to happen to their property values, with their daily life, with Pond State Park? You know, people have come out that it's not as clear cut as you say in terms of it's being clean and being safe. And again, you may be right, I'm not a scientist, but just on a daily basis, how do you reconcile your conscience with the people living there who own homes there, who love the rolling hillsides and all the foliage and beauty, and you really will, and I know some of them obviously are far, or you wouldn't have the land, but it seems that many more are really against this. The farmers are concerned about it. So just tell me, because, you know, you are likable, you seem like a good guy. How do you reconcile that? Can
And
you
the
tell us that?
blasting, how often does the blasting go on? All day?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
I just, wildlife, everything.
Yes, yes, that's, I'm gonna answer your question, I'll go
Yes,
go
please
back to
do,
yours.
yeah, okay.
You know, the interesting thing with this whole project and with NexGen, and Rod, you tell me if I'm wrong, the property owners came to R&K. The property owners came to Tampa Railroad and said, you know, we have a commodity here, we have a natural resource here, would you mine it for us? Because when we mine it, they're gonna get a royalty off of it. No different than other quarries that's in our community. So, you know, but that is a good question. And ma'am?
I mean, how many property owners are you talking about? 6, 8?
I'd say that, close to
And
that.
how many properties feel they will be affected and who are protesting it?
Yeah, I don't, you know, that'd be a better question for Jillian. You know, I don't.
That's my concern.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
And I know it's a hard balance.
Yes,
It is a hard balance.
Yes,
But I see we are not good stewards, I don't feel, of the land and the beauty and natural resources we've been given. And even though it would bring in jobs, at what cost to the people who already live there, who are not one of the 8 property owners or 10 who approached you, who are saying, look, we don't want this. And natural resource people who are saying it will have an effect on Hahn State Park. These are really serious questions, more so today than ever, I think.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's just my thought, and I
appreciate your comment, I understand. Go ahead, ma'am.
Maybe on a similar note to what Elaine's saying, you could answer this question. I haven't had a lot of knowledge about what's going on there, and I live close to the Fisher Quarry, so I'm far away from that area. But when this project started out, the word that I heard, the rumor, and maybe you can dispel it, was that the group that was going to do this went in and got a piece of property. And the law said that they had to notify all the other property owners whose property touches the property, and that it was deeded to where there was a deed that created a circular area, we'll say, around that. So they notified essentially themselves that this was going to happen, and that the people outside of that perimeter had no knowledge until the ball was well down the road. Can you talk to that information that was on the street then?
Yes, ma'am. When we come to the notification time, and so the first permit that we filed for was called the land reclamation permit, and you file for that with DNR. So DNR asked us to file for that, and part of that is that what we had to do was, not had to do, what we did do was we had to send certified letters out to everybody that's property, just as like you talked about, okay? And so anyway, that was the process that we were asked to do. If I had it to do over again, you know, I'm a very approachable person. Had it over again, maybe I'd have took them to every door. I don't know.
So is
You know what I
that an untruth of what we have heard previously about that perimeter that was created to avoid notifying people outside of it? Is that an untruth?
Ma'am, I hate that. Now I'm gonna start, as I understand it, and what I was told by the DNR, was that when we had to have a notification time, and we had to notify everybody that was an adjoining property, and we had to send them a letter, and that's what we did. Okay, that's what we did. We did not define the boundary. Once we got everybody that we were gonna notify, we sent that to the DNR for their approval. They checked their records against our records, and they went out. Go ahead.
How far in advance did you give the notification before starting the mine? Like how far?
Starting the mine.
I should say for the beginnings of breaking ground? How far in advance?
Okay, you know, and I'll share this because this is, I mean, you can go talk to anybody. Part of our lease agreement is that anybody, the homeowners own the timber, the property owners own the timber. So the property owners that are out there have the ability to call somebody, and I can stand here and tell you, you know what? Did I tell them a logger that I've used on projects for R&K? Yes, I did. And Linda knows who that person is. And so I called that person and I said, hey, I'd like to introduce you to these people. I went out there, I stood at one of the property corners, and I said, this is so-and-so, and I introduced them to this property owner, and there's this property owner, and I said, guys, this is something I'm not a part of. And so I did not, you know, those are with the landowners. You know, those landowners that are out there, by golly, man, they can, just like every one of us sitting here, they can have somebody cut their timber if they want to cut their timber. I don't, you know, man, this is, that's tough stuff. But it was not, I tell you, NexGen did not hire anybody. And as far as land moving, I'm the excavating business. And the only machine that I've had out there was a drill to make sure that the sand was there. And I did that, you know, and the other piece of equipment I had out there, as y'all saw last week, I had a bush hog out there, and I bush hogged it to clean it up just a little bit. But I have not cut any roads, and I'm going to take that back. When the drill that we have is at such a point that there was these logging roads, and yes, I did cut some paths where my drill could drill, but I did not do any development. But yeah, I never thought about that, but that's what we did. Go ahead, Dave.
I just want to say a few things. One, Roger mentioned, you know, I've been on the school board for about 11 years now. Prior to that, a lot of work was done. Turf field was put in. That took a lot of work. And Roger and his company gave a lot towards that. That's a fact. And it's much appreciated. And I've known Ron for a while too. I guess my concern is, you know, these folks, Jillian, her relatives, and many others that live out there, you know, they're scared for their kids, they're scared for the water, they're scared for their livestock, they're scared for their lives. And I know you've got science to back up much of what you're saying, but you get to do this if you get the permits until something goes wrong, or if something goes wrong. And that's what they're scared about.
Yes, I understand.
And I just don't, I don't know what you can say, but if you have anything to say to that.
You always got to watch out. You know, do you ever have something come to your mind and you think, you know what, I don't know if I ought to say that or not? We have had other minds in this community that you held to that same accountability, and you hold us to the same. That's all I can say. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Lived in Pacific for an area for about 10 years. My wife grew up there. You said you were recently out there?
Yes, sir.
I don't know why, but once you get off at the Six Flags exit before those mines, did you notice on the left side, there's no residents at all the way up to the mine? And then if you go to the right side, you have the prison, KOA camp, but again, no residential, no housing, and they've been there since the 1900s.
Yes.
But we also had a silica mine attempted to go in Hillsborough.
Yes.
And they didn't go down. Do you remember the ruling of the Planning and Zoning Commission?
I heard the Planning and Zoning.
The exact words were they felt that it threatened the quality and the tranquility of the mine.
Right.
That's why they wouldn't come.
Okay. Yeah. And your comment toward why there's no houses. My wife and I, when we first married, I had a very good friend of mine who lived in Pacific. And if you remember, that's when the big flood came in Pacific. And, our first ice box came out of flood. And, so anyway, and that's why there was not a lot of rebuilding, and even that prison went underwater. And, that's why that you see in a lot of those areas like that, coming to it. It doesn't look like a lot, but, I do remember that. And again, I'm not done, that's what I remember, sir, but if there's not buildings there, I can't stand here and tell you exactly why not.
Well, one thing we know about is St. Genevieve, and that's.
Yeah, we do. Yes, we do, sir.
David, I wanted to address your concern. Something my wife has been at Mississippi Lime for 30 years now, and Mr. Scheer, we have several former Mississippi Lime present and past. And when Mississippi Lime, from what I've been told from history and people who first originally worked there, said at Mississippi Lime they were so concerned about the dust that the owner at the time across the road put in a Angus cattle ranch, because actually my wife, they cleaned out a shed and her boss gave her a shed and said Mississippi Lime Angus Ranch, and they put cattle in directly across the road from Mississippi Lime to prove that the dust and the limestone would not affect the cattle. And we still have that sign, so, you know, something new till we learn is always a little, you know, I guess there's a little fear involved, but the same thing happened with Mississippi Lime, and we dealt with that with Wholesome, what would be the effects. So I just, you know, when you said that, David, that's the first thing that came to my mind when they put the cattle in across from Mississippi Lime.
So in a similar fashion, will there be, you know, somebody help me, will there be a mechanism to test those things that could go wrong throughout if you get the approval?
Yes, well, what we did about a couple months ago, what we had to do is for air quality, we had to get a baseline. And so what we did is we set up 5 different air stations. And what that does is we took those we put them around the properties. And then what we did was, and then we got a baseline and the air quality permit that if and when issued will hold us to make sure that it's just like blasting. R&K does blasting. We blasted on a project today. And used to, when you would blast, I would set up seismographs around the property. And what I would do is I would blast, I would get those readings, and I would send them to Jeff City. Now, after 9/11, that all changed, and the alcohol and firearms changed it all. And now I have to set up seismographs that are on the site, and as soon as I shoot, it is registered in Jeff City. I don't touch it, I don't have anything to, and so these are new laws that are being passed. And the air quality, I'm not gonna swear to that one. I think that's the line we're going down, but I'm not gonna swear to that, Dave.
Thanks, Roger. I'm gonna kind of segue off of his comment. As a career miner, I've spent 30 years, almost 30 years in mining. And I know one of the challenges is keeping dust down.
Yes.
I mean, it's almost like whack-a-mole. I mean, you get one place wet and try to get somewhere else wet, and that dries out, and it's a constant change. Will the miners will they have cyclones that they'll wear all the time? Will there be perimeter cyclones to measure the air quality that the men and women will be their intake?
There is perimeter cyclones, and there is processes. We have been on mine sites without naming, that there is no protection more. Right. Okay, but there is also air quality, is set up around the mine, and it's being monitored daily. And so anyway, and those parameters. The other thing that we're doing is if you're a miner, when dust comes is when there's impact and it pushes the moisture out and it separates it, now you got dust. Our mine will not have trucks on site. All it will have is a loader. and that loader will be putting on a conveyor belt, so we're not, you know, that's, one thing that we've made a point, because we realize dust is a, you know, in the excavator.
You have dust with drilling and just equipment
Yes.
moving and conveyors
Yes.
moving,
Yes.
that's the nature of the beast, but I was
Yeah.
wondering if you'll be monitoring
Yes.
the perimeters.
Yes.
And as a career miner, usually once a year, I myself would wear a cyclone because silica is a danger.
Mhm.
And I would wear the cyclone, which would come up here and be right by my mouth, to
Right.
kind of simulate my, you know, a person breathing. MSHA, the government body that'll be overseeing your mine,
Right.
also comes out and they do monitoring as well. And then they take those discs or the diaphragm.
That's right.
From that, and then they're sent off and they measure how much silica
That's
there
correct.
is. Which is different than limestone. Limestone is a respirable, product, you know, it goes in, breaks down, you can cough it up. Silica, not so much.
Okay.
That's why I was wondering if the men and women out there will be protected.
Yes. There will be monitors, like you say, there will be monitors, and if any place that a miner is in a place that we think that, or is proven that the dust level is too high, then yes. No different than any other quarry.
Would your facility be different than the one out here at Brewer, or is it pretty much the same?
You know,
I never found out, I never did know, that was up and down so many times.
right. You know, I've never been back there, but.
I mean, is your setup gonna be similar to what you see down there?
Again, I've only been by it by the road, but,
That's what I mean, the loadout facility, that's what I'm
yes,
talking about.
the silos, yes.
Yeah, is that kind of?
Because
similar to what-
the thing is once the product is dried, it has to go into containment, because
Right.
it can't take any moisture.
Right.
And so when we load it on the train cars, no different than when material comes out of our other places, it goes in and it's got O-ring hatches, and I mean, it's a sealed process.
Right.
You know, it can't, moisture
Like
is a
your-
big no-no.
Like loading hydrate.
There you got it.
Yeah.
There you got it.
Okay.
Go ahead, ma'am.
So I do live close to the Fisher Quarry where they take out rock. They tell me over there that there's enough rock there for them to mine for 30 years. I wonder if you have a prediction on how long this will go on. They also tell me that for every ton of rock that comes out, they have to pay a certain amount into a reclamation fund, and that someday there'll be a lake situation or something there. What about those types of things? And is this a 24-hour operation?
That's a lot of questions.
You know all the
Our, what we did is if we estimated on what we thought we could produce in a year, and then our lease agreement is for 50 years, and we believe there's well more than that reservoir there. We believe there's more reserves than that there. And again, my comment about Fisher Quarry was toward not about what Bob and Funky are doing, it's about, yeah. So anyway, it's about I was referencing the dryer.
But do you also have to pay a tonnage fee into some sort of reclamation account, which is what they told me that they're required by the government?
Okay. That could be. I know we had to put a bond, but that's a good question.
Is this a 24-hour day operation that you'll be putting?
When we presented it, we presented it as 24 hours. I don't predict that, but we didn't want to come in and say we're gonna go. We think it's 5/12s, but I'm not gonna stand here and tell you that. And then the first time we run
Well, I just
over.
think that would have a large impact on quality of life for the people that live around the plant,
Yeah.
whether it's operating all day and night, all the lights, everything that goes with it. you
Yes.
know.
Yes, I understand. Go ahead.
As much as I appreciate that you intend to be good stewards of land, good community members, if that's what the market will bear, you'll donate to the community. My bigger concern is sort of what Lisa brought up, what's gonna happen after the 50 years? How are you gonna leave the land? I don't think that any amount of donations to the community is gonna put that land back the way it was.
Yeah.
Also, as a taxpayer, I have great concerns about the ongoing litigation and that's going to cost us. In this group, we've talked many times about Wholesome contesting their assessments and that entire process, how expensive that is for the taxpayers. And I feel like we're getting into the same kind of situation with the NexGen suit against the county and the Board of Trustees of the Health Board. So would you care to comment on the litigation, and I know it's ongoing, so you probably won't, but if you comment about why that was filed, when it was filed, and the steps you're taking in the meantime that go against that joint health ordinance?
Right. First question, after 50 years, R&K has also been a part of going from a company that's located in our county. I've been to another state where they pulled out, and it is one of the most oppressive 130-acre lakes you ever saw. You know, when we get done with our pit, it's gonna be a beautiful lake. And you know.
But you're not sure if there's money that's going towards that at this point. That's what you just said in response to Lisa.
Her thing was for reclamation, man.
Mm-hmm.
But when we take out, whatever we take out, when we turn the quote unquote the pumps off, I mean, it's gonna become a reservoir. It's gonna become a reservoir. You go into Southern Illinois, and again, I'm not showing, I'm just telling you what I know. You go into Southern Illinois, and you go to Carlisle Lake, and you go to Crab Orchard, and you go to all those lakes are old coal mines. So, you know, that's what, you know, so that's something that I see. I think it's gonna be something nice.
But we have your word on that. We don't actually, there's no regulation.
Ma'am, I'm 61 years old. My word, 50 years. And I'm gonna tell you something, my sons, I believe, and those, you know what I mean, ma'am, I believe they're those men of character, I do.
I'm sure you do believe it, but there is nothing regulating you or requiring you to do that.
To do what, ma'am?
To do something with the land that's going to, obviously it's not going to be restored the way it was, which is certainly my preference and probably some other people's.
Right.
But there's nothing that says when your operation shuts down either in 50 years or because the market doesn't bear it, how the land has to be when you are finished with it.
We have a design that when the design is done and the way that we're gonna extract the natural resources, if we go 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, we're gonna do it in a way that when we turn the pumps off or whatever it is, that there is a basin there, that there is water there. I mean, we're making a hole, and when it rains, the hole fills, and that's kind of, you know, we have that just north of where the Mississippi line loads their material. I mean, I've been there, you know what I mean? That's a pit. You know, one day they turned the pumps off, you know, and stuff like that. And again, no disrespect. The other thing is, you asked me about the lawsuit, and I want to be very careful how I answer this, because the taxpayers, I'm one of them. And I have a great respect for democracy. I have a great respect for government. And when that ordinance was put into place, and somebody asked me the question, you know what, when you get that permit, are you gonna start no matter if the ordinance is in place or not? I'm like, man, I am a law-abiding citizen of St. Genevieve County. I'm not doing anything until, you know, and what we have asked the court to do, and we filed a petition and just asked the court to hear out what we've shared with them, to hear out what we believe that, you know, that we believe that, I guess, what's the word, without showing disrespect, we have a different thought, we have a different process. But that does not mean that anybody sitting in this room is my enemy. What that means is I, as a taxpaying citizen, have a different mindset toward a decision that was made, you know, and that's what that is. The litigation, I hope that, you know, yeah, I don't like it. We don't like it either. So anyway, but anyway, anybody else? I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
So,
I had no idea I was gonna talk this much.
Just,
Brought you water. Oh, thank you.
just to clear a thing up, I graduated with Corey.
Yes.
While he and I ran in completely different circles, he was the quarterback, I was on the marching band. I don't have any bad stories about Corey. Lots of people he ran with, but not him specifically. And so I know, I grew up.
Yes, sir.
I grew up with what you, and from the room, I can't confirm this, but from what people in my class said and what Corey had said, you were a driving force behind the football field and a driving force behind a lot of the improvements at the school. So I know for a fact, and like being a preacher, you are community oriented. My question is, you see not only within ordinances that our elected officials have put into place.
That's correct.
But also you see huge and massive amounts of community backlash from, and you mentioned political parties earlier, from both sides, saying that there are problems, and there are massive problems that are not being addressed, and there are steps you're putting into place. I heard you talk about the bond earlier, the ecological bond, right? This is question one. How much was that?
I can't answer that.
Okay. Well, do you think?
I tell you what, if you call, he's out of town this week. You call Clark next week. He'll tell you what it is.
Well,
I don't know.
From what I remember hearing, it was approximately $15,000.
Okay.
Does that sound like enough to make sure that, just like your son and me, we both had time in this town,
yes,
playing at Han State Park, hanging out around town, going on trips. We went on our senior trips together.
Yes, sir.
I just want my kids to be able to do the same thing.
That's right.
And do you think that bond was enough to make sure that if something goes wrong, we're covered? And if no, could NexGen Silica, or even your company, take autonomous, independent steps to make sure that if something goes wrong, that you are accountable? Not making us hold you accountable, but to make sure that NexGen Silica holds itself accountable and shows us that's willing to do that.
Right. Right. I believe our character speaks to that, but that's a tough, you know. I could speak to that in so many different ways. But I've been in business 35 years, and I've had some ups, I've had some downs. But because of the people that have been around me, I'm still here. And you know, because there's certain people in this room that supported me, we're still here. So your question toward accountability, you know, that's a good one. How far do we go? I mean, who holds you accountable? You know, who holds you accountable?
Well,
you know what? Mostly the laws of our state, the laws of our land hold us accountable. But you know, that's a good question.
So do you not want to like show that good faith to the community?
And how would you do that, sir?
How would I do it?
Yes, sir.
A significantly larger bond. Because it's pretty clear that the community is concerned. And understand, I want my children to be able to experience the land of St. Genevieve and St. Genevieve County in the same way that I got to. Right. Or at least in a similar way. Nothing stays the same.
Yes,
right?
I understand.
But if there is, and there is a way, to show the community that you're not just out here to give 40 random people some paychecks, that you're not just out here to pad your pockets. I understand, at least. I'm also a business owner. Business is the game. You got to make money. It's not a problem with that. The problem comes in when the community has such a backlash, and when there are so many concerns that seem to just be unheard, and to talk about respect, seemingly disrespected.
Yes.
So is there any plans to show that level of accountability? Is there any plans to maybe show the community and say to the community, hey, yes, we want to do this. We are just opposing opinion, but here's what we're planning to do to make it right.
Okay. got an answer, you want it?
Yeah.
Last Monday, RNCAT, I keep saying, it's so hard when you're different people, but NexGen hired a gentleman that I have great respect for, that worked for a national company called Mossy Oak, and he was their conservation guy, and he is as conservation minded as they get. And here in the next few weeks, you're gonna hear everything you're asking me about giving back. He's gonna tell you, he's not here, but, you know, what was your name again, sir?
Iggy.
Iggy?
Or Steven.
Yeah,
I have lots of names too. I
that's
got
what
it.
I thought. But Iggy, I would love to give you his contact and all these questions. Again, I didn't come here tonight saying I'm an authority on everything. You know that, and when you ask these questions like this, I think those are great. You know, we are business owners, but we are St. Genevieve County business owners. We're not, it's not coming in and heading out. And so anyway, so how we give back, I think, is very important, and I think that's a great question. After Linda left my office, oh boy, we're really. So anyway,
So are you saying you don't, in the same way Wholesome is, you don't intend to challenge the tax code in the way that they are?
No.
Okay.
No.
What is the projected financial benefit for the county?
That again, Linda and I sat in a room, and again, all we did, we sat in a room and we drew on a chalkboard, right? I think we could come up with that, but I don't know that tonight. But you know what, Linda's,
It's kind of premature.
yes, that's a good point.
Give a value on that plan, but it's not even built.
That's right. That's right.
Roger, can I ask you one more?
Yeah.
You talked about seismographs and air quality. Are there any plans? I know you said earlier you're not, the water reclamation process and the example of you cleaning your pond and the water going. Are there any plans to test water to make sure?
Yes. Yes, that's part of our water permit. We have to send samples to the water. We have to monitor our air. And then if Clark was here, he would tell you this, Dave, after so many acres are opened up, then we have to go back and start reclamation processes. So anyway, but I don't know exactly what that number is.
So you're talking about testing the air around the plant and the individual workers and that. Do you test the air on a regular schedule outside of the plant? Is there a perimeter outside of the immediate area of the plant for the people who
For the
live
property
down there?
owners?
Is that part of the
I
testing?
think that would be up to the property owners if they would allow that.
So that would be the property owner's responsibility?
No, if they would allow that.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Thank you.
yes. I think the farther we get away, so anyway, go ahead, Mary.
We've talked about air pollution and water pollution. I have a question about light pollution. If you're going to operate at night, is this going to be a lit area? Because you are right next door to Hickory Canyon where people go for bird watching, and if there are lights, you're going to drive birds away.
Right. I'm gonna give you what I know, but don't, same thing with lighting. You know, it used to be when you turn a light off, you guys have been to Busch Stadium, when you turn a light off, you had to stay off and it had to wait an hour to come back on because they were vapor and they had to cool. The new lighting with all the what's they called the lights? LED lights. With the LED lights, there's more control and there's more, there's not as much, there's a lot more direction and not so much elimination. But, I guess that's my answer. But I saw it, but I don't know how to explain it, okay?
Because cities are having drives to get office buildings to turn off their lights at
Yes.
night. And every morning, the Audubon Club
travels the streets of St. Louis picking up the dead birds that have hit windows overnight.
Yes.
It is an issue.
Yeah. But the LED lighting, like they put it in the Busch Stadium, I mean, it's amazing, you know, because they got so well at the direction, because that was one of the big concerns when they built the new stadium, was the lighting thing. But again, I'm not a lighting person. Go ahead, ma'am.
That raises another question, since my family's, they're big deer hunters, and I know deer, we've had a rough several seasons here in St. John County, but they kind of seem to be coming back. What will it do to the deer population? Again, my cousin's farms are close to the area, not adjacent, but close. What will it do to the deer population and other wildlife?
Right. Again, the gentleman that we hired, our website will be coming out probably in 2 weeks, and all these things that you're asking will be addressed.
Good.
We have 249 acres that we're permitted to and that 249 acres will take us 50 years. And so our plan is to food plots and other things to enhance more than deter. That's our plan. So anyway, and, you know, we're all hunters. You know, we're all hunters. I have a farm. I spend a lot of time planting food plots and planting beans. You know what I mean? I mean, it's to take, you have to give. We understand that. All right.
All right, thank you. Oh, thank you. She's on the ball. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, August 17th. We're going to plan to not have a speaker at that meeting. We've got a lot of business that we've been sort of talking about, the officers and social media and the Offsite Planning Committee. So our next meeting, we're going to just focus on some club business. All are still welcome to attend. Even if it's your first meeting, please join us. We won't have a guest speaker. And we'll be probably talking a little bit about elections that are coming up. So we have our drawing for 4 tickets to this Friday's Summer Concert Series with a reserve table. If you're our winner tonight, please see me and I'll fill you in about the table. And would you like to read the winning ticket, please?
Sure.
Go ahead, nice and loud.
93225.
See, all right. Checkered shirt. All right, does anybody have anything else before we adjourn? Kim?
Do you have an update from the fair? We have a table at the fair, right?
We did. So Susan and Annette, who's not with us tonight, were doing some campaigning from the fair. You have anything, Susan?
Yeah, we set up there all day on Saturday. We were right next to the draw slide. We have a lot of people stop by. Set us right next to the Republican stand.
Thank you. Our ad looks great in the program, though. Thanks to Iggy for designing the ad. I know they changed the size on us, so next year we'll confirm the size and make sure we got that right. We did have 3 vehicles entered in the parade. Unfortunately, we got rained on, and that storm was pretty bad, but we all survived, and it was a great time before that happened, right, Wayne? That's correct. And Wayne still got candy left over, so. So, yeah. All right. All right, so we'll look forward to that next year. That's also something we'll talk about at the next meeting. Our banner didn't hold up real well in the parade, so we might want to invest in some nicer signs for cars, some magnets maybe, and things like that. So we'll talk about that next meeting because we've been here long enough. So thanks, everybody. Unless anybody has anything else, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Bill, and a second from Kathy. Thank you, meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone, appreciate it.
know what I'm after.
I know.